So there's absolutely no way any of us could have prepared for that explosive briefing by KZN Police Chief Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. He told a tale of an alleged web involving our police minister, Senzo Mchunu, criminal underworld figures such as Vusi Cat Matlala, and some middleman called a Brown Mokgotsi. But what's even more alarming is what lies ahead for our country. Protests and night vigils have already begun in earnest across the country. A broken political and criminal justice system that's been hijacked by criminal elements, and an admission that there is internal unrest within our very own military intelligence. These are all ingredients for what some might say is a looming social uprising. So what must our first citizen tell us come 7 p.m. on Sunday night? I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo. I'm coming to you live from Mbombela with a special edition of Your Week in Politics.
A total of 121 case dockets that were under investigation were taken away from the task team as directed by a Deputy National Commissioner Crime Detection, a Lieutenant General Sibia, who was acting on the instruction of the Minister of Police to disband the team.
General Mkhwanazi said, "No, I don't want this docket in my province." He refused that.
This syndicate involves, amongst others, politicians who are currently serving in Parliament.
There are those statements that he has made. We will, in good time, apply our mind to those kind of statements.
This is not a matter that we should not give attention to. It is a serious matter. It has to do with the security of our people, but it also has to do with our adherence to the rule of law.
All right, so this evening, I'm not alone for this special edition of Your Week in Politics. I'm joined by Newzroom Africa's political economy editor, Vuyo Mvoko, who will be assisting me with unpacking some of the things that we've heard just in the last week. In fact, it's incredible that it's only been just 1 week since that explosive briefing. And I want to take you back to the 5th of March, where both Mkhwanazi and Mchunu appeared before Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee, where this was the first sighting of this name of Brown Mokgotsi, understated at the time, but little did we know that a few months later he would become a key figure in understanding in what seems to be a criminal syndicate running our government.
He's a close associate of the Minister of Police, because he said to me he was joining the Minister of Police to visit the Lusikisiki massacre that had happened last year. And because I did not trust him, I called the Chief of Staff to try and establish who is this gentleman. And the Chief of Staff did confirm to me that indeed he is a very person close to the Minister of Police. But what surprised me about this gentleman is that he then indicated to me on a message that he sent me when he said there's an internal attempt to discredit me through the defeating the end of justice case.
I think I picked up something that Provincial Commissioner Mkhwanazi is saying about some fellow. 2 weeks ago, it does happen in a week or 2 or 3. I think a week and a half ago, I got somebody insisting that there's somebody who's going around saying he works with me wherever I am, he is there. And I said, show me the face. And it got to a point where he showed me the face, and I told him, I don't know this person.
So this contradicts, of course, Mkhwanazi's recent statement this week where he made a U-turn and claimed that he actually does know Brown Mkhwanazi, but his relationship with him has been overstated in the media reports, of course. And what we also got to know this weekend through Mkhwanazi, of course, going against the president's call for discipline and restraint, is that now Mkhwanazi could be facing charges of perjury and has been hauled and will be hauled before Parliament's Ethics Committee.
So first of all, it's the ethics part that needs to happen. It needs to be confirmed that he did or didn't lie, and then it would warrant a criminal procedure to follow. Lying to Parliament is a criminal offence, and the relevant process needs to follow. So there's no doubt about that. Remember as well, and I see many of the committees have started doing this, that when they ask or engage in any form of interrogation or question or any form of engagement, they remind those that they are engaging with that you are officially under oath in Parliament. So lying there is a criminal offence.
So since then, there have been 2 criminal cases opened against Mkhwanazi by the official opposition, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, and the Democratic Alliance. The EFF has also taken Mkhwanazi, and they want to see if he has actually breached the Executive Members Ethics Act and Parliament's 2014 Parliamentary Code of Conduct. And at the same time, National Assembly Speaker Togo Didiza has actually called for 3 committees to look into this matter: the Police, Justice and Constitutional Development, as well as the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, to consider on an urgent basis the allegations and their impact on our national security.
The way we have agreed with the 2 chairpersons is that there would be a joint committee meeting which would look at these matters. So they won't meet separately. So the Police and the Justice Committee will meet together, look at these matters, advise Parliament, because there must be a decision on the House on what needs to happen with these allegations and how, as Parliament, in our oversight responsibility, needs to engage with these matters. The Joint Standing Committee, obviously, they would also report to Parliament. So members of the public would also appreciate how that committee had dealt with those matters.
So what further muddies the waters here is that National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola this week also coming out and saying that he never signed off on any letter disbanding that political killings task team. Now, Masemola addressed a briefing virtually on Wednesday where I must say, not really answering many questions that were sent to him via the WhatsApp chat.
Well, I'm sure you have not seen any letter that I've signed to close the unit. I have not signed it, and I don't think anybody have ever seen a letter where I've signed off the closure of the unit.
Masemola was also quite elusive on whether or not his boss, the executive authority, that being Police Minister Senzo Mkhwanazi, whether he's currently under investigation by Mkhwanazi.
Well, look, one does not venture into criminal investigations. The provincial commissioner did indicate what he's investigating, but one cannot venture into a criminal investigation, and the province have got the authority to investigate criminal cases.
So that's pretty much a summation of what took place just over the last few days and just this evening. Attempts to have night visuals showing solidarity with Mkhwanazi. And now I want to bring in Newzroom Africa's political economy editor, Vuyo Mvoko, because, I mean, we've heard what took place during the week. There's been so much reaction. And when this came out, you know, the president was making his way to Brazil. So many people, some reading into this to say he was quite naughty, waited for Ramaphosa to be out of the country, Paul Mashatile was out of the country. And then when this happened, the president said he's giving it the most important urgency from his office, but now we have to wait until Sunday. How should we be reading this?
It's an interesting turn of events, and one of the things that stand out for me is actually the police ministers feeling the need first to deny the relationship that he has had for years, actually, with one Mr. Brown, because he has actually, everyone knows, people in the Northwest will tell you about the relationship he had especially while he was national organizer, based full-time at Luthuli House, the ANC's headquarters. It was also a known fact that Brown mobilized resources for the CR17 campaign. So the question then arises, or at the very least, speculation has been mounting, that is Minister Mkhunu taking one perhaps for the president, even given the relationship. I mean, he's on record, Brown that is, having spoken about how angry he was that former President Jacob Zuma would not endorse Cyril Ramaphosa for president when his term was about to end. So there is a relationship that exists not only between Minister Senzo Mkhunu and Brown, but also between Brown and the president. So it's going to be an interesting one, how the president navigates this as he, of course, decides on what course of action to take.
Speaking of navigating, because there's much to be said about him not addressing it urgently. I mean, he was able to be at the Union Buildings just this Friday, today, to have and host the Eminent Persons Group. So almost as if life is going on. And so we've been told he's consulted various stakeholders, but others could be reading it as him almost trying to make sure that he plays his cards right. What are his options? Bide time.
It's going to be an interesting one because, I mean, he doesn't have a record of acting decisively. Everyone says that about him. But he always finds a way of navigating situations such that, so as to, as some people would say, hide the fact that he is not acting decisively. What are his options when it comes to a Senzo Mkhunu? He could move him sideways, like he did with Minister Mpumalanga. Right? And then the effect of that could be that he could argue that I want whatever investigation or inquiry, whatever he gets to decide, should be the course of action on his part. Parallel, of course, perhaps to the one that the legislature has chosen, which is the committee that the Speaker spoke about earlier. So he could then say, I want him out of that space so as to give those who are in the space the time, the latitude, but also the freedom to actually do whatever they need to do, not having to look, behind them where the minister is or might be. So that's one option that he has. But remember also that Senzo Mkhunu is an ally.
Yes.
You have seen how the ANC has been lukewarm, to say the least, towards General Mkhwanazi. The people who have actually been driving this, making a lot of noise, even to the extent of laying charges, are your MK party. Leading again to another speculation that there's an invisible hand that we may not have identified yet. Why is the MK party so invested
but so is the
in
Democratic
this
Alliance.
particular? They are. Look, truth be told, their nose is out of joint because of what happened with the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. They are trying, sometimes very hard, one would say, to distinguish themselves from the ANC within the government of national unity. They've seen a gap and they're seizing that. The same goes for the MK party. everyone knows there's no love lost between the former president and Jacob Zuma and the
I'm
current
sure the MK party will have
president.
much
So there's a
to say
lot
about.
there.
I mean, there is a lot there, but let's talk then about this very point, and perhaps not just focusing on the MK party, but when you look at several factors, you look at the way Mkhwanazi was dressed, it was clear that he's ready for combat, but also the reaction is, you know, it's not just around Mkhwanazi, the individual, but it's around the issue of crime, which all South Africans can resonate with. They're saying Mkhwanazi is explaining why we are living the way we are here in South Africa and why things don't move. And that's where the issue of having an executive authority directly interfering in cases becomes a problem, and their alleged relationship with people in the criminal underworld. Now, you've drawn a picture of this Brown Mokgotsi also possibly even knowing our first citizen because he was a runner in the CR17 campaign. All of these are already almost coalescing towards massive protests around the country. We're seeing sparks everywhere. Yes, it's saying in solidarity with Mkhwanazi, but many could even argue that it's around this issue that he has raised, which is fundamentally about crime.
It is, and I mean, people are sick and tired of crime, but how do you explain the proximity? I mean, a lot of people say a lot of things about Brown Mokgotsi, right? But how do you explain, how did it get to be close to a point now that Minister Mchunu calls him a comrade? Now, he may have used that word perhaps loosely, but in the Congress tradition, someone you call a comrade is someone who would even be prepared to, die for you. It has its history and origins, and as senior a member of the ANC as Mkhunu is, he would have been careful about his choice of words. But the fact that he was so comfortable to call him that, I think, tells a story. But it also tells a bigger story. The fact that leaders of the ANC, leaders in government, and especially someone like him who is responsible for the portfolio of the police, enjoys such proximity with such a person. So there's a lot that the president, both the Minister of Police and the president, have to actually tell this nation as he, to use his words, takes the nation into confidence. But clearly there's a lot that we don't know. How does the Minister of Defense come out, and say, we have a problem?
And I want you to hold it there, Vuyo Mvoko. You spoke of an invisible hand, and that's exactly what we're going to delve into. Speaking of the Minister of Defense, she made some startling statements this week talking about an internal unrest within our military intelligence. Why are we talking about this? Well, we could be seeing the reorganization of our security apparatus, and is this all going to come together in one way or another and link up with all that we're seeing across the country? A social uprising on the horizon. We'll talk more about that just after this. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Your Week in Politics, coming to you live from Mbombela. This is where, of course, the State Funeral Category 2 will be taking place. But for this week, we are coming to you live, and we'll change tact and, of course, staying with that explosive briefing by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Before the break, we were just talking about the startling comments made about Defense Minister Angie Motshekga, and this is in light of what we've seen, the protests taking place across the country after Mkhwanazi's revelations. She says our biggest threat right now is inside South Africa's borders, and in fact, there's already an internal unrest within the military intelligence. Just listen to this.
Our biggest threat from the military intelligence in our country is internal unrest, like we had in KZN. Because there's also of simmering problems which are created not only by a specific incident, which that makes the country volatile. Your poverty rates, unemployment rates, and just general discontent amongst people. It's really a very dangerous environment which anything can ignite it. So that is always flagged as our major threat as compared to external countries attacking us, but it's having problems internally. I was with the intelligence head and the chief of the defense on Friday with the deputies, and they did flag internal unrest as a potential threat. And that's why there's constant exchange of information between the police, your state security agency, and our military intelligence, just to really monitor what we think is indeed a major potential threat for the country.
All right, so we're still coming to you live from Mbombela with Your Week in Politics, and I'm joined by Vuyo Mvoka, Newzroom Africa's political economy editor. So we've just played a bite by Angie Motshekga talking about how there is internal unrest within military intelligence. At surface level, this might seem distant from what Mkhwanazi actually told us this week, but when you look at certain ingredients that lead to social uprisings, what we've seen across the continent, rising poverty levels, having someone come out dressed like Mkhwanazi saying, I am the man who knows the problems and actually points to those problems. And then you have, military officials saying that they're very unhappy from where they stand. Already there are protests, sparks of protests across the country. We've been here before, 2021. The only difference here is it's not coalescing around an individual per se, but we're seeing that this is resonating, with the country in terms of the issue of crime, which affects all of us.
In fact, it is a worrying state of affairs, considering how terrible the state security apparatus was and how ill-equipped they were to deal with the situation in 2021. And fast forward to 2025, you have a seriously under-resourced police, South African police service. You have a seriously under-resourced and ill-equipped National Defence Force. You have ructions within the intelligence community. You have rogue elements that are running amok. So it goes without saying that our state law enforcement agencies cannot deal with this situation.
Do you think the president is cognizant of the gravity of this moment we find ourselves in?
I'm sorry to say, I don't think he's alive to it. He didn't use the words that he often used in the past to say he was shocked, but the choice of words from both the statement, what he had to say in Brazil, and what he has said since, suggests that he wasn't aware of it at all, which begs the question, where's the Minister of Intelligence?
But also,
did they not pick this up?
Where's the military? I mean, if we are still a country, my understanding is that one General Ruzani Mapwanya is supposed to be briefing the president on a daily basis on the security of this country. Does it mean that this is not happening?
There's a Minister of Intelligence who is right within the presidency.
She was in Brazil.
Talk about priorities.
And I want us to actually pause there, because I spoke to political analyst Paulos Zulu about this, and he shares the same sentiments that we are within the moment where the perfect ingredients could well come together. We saw those sightings in 2021. The only difference is that back then it was around one individual called former President Jacob Zuma, whose credibility at the time was quite questionable.
If the Mkhwanazi utterances are going to cause a revolution, it is because he is appealing not only to the sentiments, but to the experiences of the ordinary people on the ground who are living and suffering from crime, who are living and suffering from poverty, who are living and suffering from normlessness, and they want direction. And he is saying, I know where the problem lies. And the people realize through their experiences that indeed the problem must lie elsewhere. And he has pointed to where the problem lies. I am not saying he is right or wrong. I am just sketching a theoretical, practical scenario, how we are living here.
So Zulu also adds that criminal elements have long hijacked our state apparatus, and he describes it as manufactured anarchy.
In 2021, approximated something like it. Number one, it did not gain traction throughout the country. Where it gained traction, it was destructive. It did not gain traction because it was not representative of how South Africans felt. The current issues are not necessarily centered around an individual. They are centered around the entire political governmental system. Now, Mkhwanazi says we are being ruled by cartels, drug cartels, etc., etc. And if the people buy into that, and they feel because of these issues they have to take up arms, that might be on a slightly larger scale than we had in the 2021 riots, which were only centered around an individual whose credibility was literally debatable.
Some strong words there from political analyst Paulos Zulu, just painting a picture of exactly where we are. So, when the president opens his mouth at 7 o'clock on Sunday, fellow South Africans?
Hopefully, he will recognize that here, it's not only about him taking the nation into his confidence. It's an opportunity to hopefully, once and for all, deal with the problems that we've known for decades now, and hopefully come up with a course of action that will, at the very least, begin to address what lies at the bottom of South Africa's policing problems, South Africa's intelligence problems, South Africa's defense force problems, but also the nexus between money and politics. Hopefully we'll recognize that this is bigger than him, it's bigger than the ANC. This is about South Africa and an important part of South African life, because if status quo continues or the situation gets worse, then we'll have no nation tomorrow.
No nation tomorrow. Mr. President, speak to your citizens, give direction. Vuyo Mvoko is Newzroom Afrika's political economy editor. Thank you so much for your time. This is where we leave your week in politics, a special edition coming to you live from Mbombela, the venue where that state funeral category 2 will be taking place.